Blenders, and welcome to episode number 206 of ReelBlend, a podcast that will give away the Oscar for Best Score live on this week's show. So get Hans Zimmer on line 2, please.
Somebody has to.
On this week's show, we're going to give our final Oscar predictions. Everything, Everywhere, All at Once hits theaters, and Jake and I really want to get into it. Without spoilers, unfortunately, because Gabe didn't get a chance to see it. And then Mariama Diallo, let me try that again. Mariama Diallo is going to be joining the show to discuss her new film, Master. Very excited to have her on the show. Very exciting movie that you guys need to be paying attention to. By joining us on the show, I do mean, let's start with Jake Hamilton of Fox 32 in Chicago. Jake, it's been a long time, sir. How are you?
You know what hasn't been a long time?
Yes.
Is since I won the Oscar poll. You know what has been a long time is since anyone else has won the Oscar poll. So
you won the last two? Is that what we're trying to say?
Yeah. Last two.
All right.
And there's a punishment involved. Gabe,
are you making picks this week?
I am not making. Hello, I'm Gabe. I produce the show. I'm filming for Kevin.
What a lame introduction.
No. I was going to get to you.
What a lackluster introduction.
Yes, but I had a question for you first. This is Gabe Kovach, the producer of the show.
Hello.
Who is sitting in for Kevin. Hi, Gabe.
Yes, I am not making. I mean, I can let you know my thoughts as we go, but as far as the wager is concerned, Kevin is not with us. He is busy today, and we needed to record. We've been gone for too long. So he will be back for the premium episode. We're doing a special premium episode for those listeners. We are saving that for a time when we're all available. But I'm filling in with him this week, and I have his picks. So he has made his picks. He will be a part of the wager as usual. I
want to point out that I admire your inability to treat art as sport, Gabe, and how you don't like to hit things against each other or choose ratings for certain things. And I have, over the years, gradually drifted more towards your side and now find the concept of the Oscars,
welcome back to the dark side, brother.
Icky. Yes. Primarily because when we discuss competitions like this, I end up losing badly. So we're going to get to our Oscar predictions in a minute. Let me start with a bit of housekeeping this week. And the guys are nice enough to give me some uninterrupted time so I could talk briefly about my review of Turning Red, which many of you might have heard about over the past couple of weeks. So it goes without saying, I wanted to get this out of the way right off the front, that the review that I wrote for Turning Red, for Pixar's latest film, and that I allowed to get published on CinemaBlend was terrible. It was the review was dismissive in tone, which I'm really disappointed at, and it lacked substantial criticism, which I was, again, equally disappointed at. I definitely could have done better on that instance. And so CinemaBlend as a whole is actively working together as a staff to implement new editorial changes that we know are going to make the site much, much better and make sure that the content that's reaching you guys on a regular basis isn't reflective of anything that came through in that review. We definitely hope to share some information about those new editorial changes very soon. So in the days and weeks that followed the Turning Red review going live, I was really fortunate enough to hear from a lot of trusted colleagues, but also you guys. I heard from the Blenders who gave your candid reactions to the review. And just know that if you sent me a note, and I took every single thing that was sent to me to heart, because I really appreciate people who took the time to reach out and just see how I was doing and to let me know really honestly how they felt about the review. And it's my hope that I'm going to use all those notes to, take a few steps back and definitely reevaluate how I process media and use that feedback to improve, not just as a critic, but as someone who communicates through a podcast on a weekly basis and through the written word on CinemaBlend. All of this is extremely valuable feedback, and it's a really great and important lesson because, as you guys know, over the past 200 plus episodes of ReelBlend, we have sought to use this platform as a way to champion films and stories from every different type of filmmaker. And I hope that you guys know that that's a goal that we are going to continue to do here at ReelBlend, is to celebrate every type of film from any and all types of filmmakers, which is something we've been doing since the Awards Blend days. And it's something we're absolutely going to continue to push to do through our criticisms and through the interviews that we hold. And this week, I am very excited to introduce as our guest, writer-director Mariama Diallo, who has a new film, Master, coming to Amazon. It is a very tense thriller that centers around two different women who are arriving on a college campus and through their different responsibilities in the film are encountering very different types of demons. And the way that you interpret the word demons is going to lead into how you interpret the film. and the way that it plays out. So she has great stories about her production process, filming in the time of COVID, working with this great ensemble. So without further ado, this is Mariama Diallo talking about her new film, Master. So we are a filmmaker podcast. We love getting into the nuts and bolts of your production process. But I need to start with a very strange question off the bat, a very specific question. The number 33 carries a lot of weight with me. It's something that I see everywhere, and it usually is a sign of something. And so there's a moment when Jasmine wakes up, when the digital alarm clock reads 333, and it freaked me out. And so I just need to know if there was a deliberate reason for you choosing it, if the number means anything to you also.
Well, what's really interesting is that I was asked that in a Q&A recently. And, for me, I found it to just be a compelling sequence of numbers. And I knew that there would be this recurring theme of Jasmine waking up at a certain time. But I hadn't really imagined, a deeper significance outside of the film for that. But one of the people in the Q&A approached me afterwards and said that she was sure that I had done it for a specific reason. She was a practitioner, I guess, of numerology. And she told me that the number 3 is the number of the ancestors. And it means that you are being called by the ancestors, which I found very, very interesting. And, not something that I had intended to be there, but I think that, for one way or another, it worked its way in,
That's very cool. Yeah, that's cool. I love that. It's
so Mariama, I'm super fascinated by the idea of when a filmmaker makes their first feature. I know you've worked obviously in short films, and I just find this interesting to me because at the end of the day, when you look at your filmography in general, years from now, this will be your first feature. And I wonder, do you think about that in terms of what the first feature says about you as a director and kind of what the first feature will mean to your filmography? Is there a reason why you wanted this one to be your first?
Well, I think part of it is a happy accident, honestly, because I write constantly. And around the time that I was writing Master, I was just really churning out scripts and working on all of these ideas that were compelling to me. And Master was the most recent script that I had written and really cared about. That coincided with the time that my short Hairwolf played at Sundance. And so when I was asked that, very, very common question, what's next? I brought out Master. I said, well, I just wrote this and here it is. But it's also, it's really fortunate because of everything that I had written up to that point. It was definitely the most personal. And it truly is in some ways too personal, almost. I'm like, oh my God, I really put a lot out there. It's very vulnerable, but I'm very glad that it is, my first feature, because I think that it tells a lot of the story of who I am and how I think and what's interesting to me and sort of what I came out of. So I think that for first feature, it's probably the most emblematic, not only of some of my creative ideas and intentions, but also just my own history.
But I would love to follow up on that and drill down a little bit more if you could, because coincidentally, I have a 17-year-old who's leaving for college in the fall. And so, we talk a lot about on the show that it's really funny when you get to certain movies at different times in your life and how, the movie never changes, but you do, and you might see it through different lenses. So I was curious when you were writing this screenplay, how much of it you were writing from personal experiences of things that you encountered, especially with Jasmine just running into a lot of the societal things that make you feel extra pressure when you're trying to be the new person at a new school.
Yeah, certainly, there's a lot that I share in common with the character of Jasmine. Fortunately, the more intense and pressurized parts of her experience that we see over the course of the film are not things that I directly experienced. And, in true movie fashion, it's really taken to the extreme. But on the level of the texture and the kinds of interactions and, the kinds of barbs and darts that she is sort of constantly navigating, those were things taken from real life. And definitely, you know, stuff that I drew from my own experience and the experience of my friends and other people who I knew just existing in that kind of space. And there could have been a lot more, you know, but I even pulled them back. So if it seems like it's a lot, it's actually not.
The scene where she's at the party and all of a sudden she's surrounded by everybody as they're singing, like that's when I wanted to just reach to the screen and like help her.
I know.
The parent in me kicked in and I was like, oh my God, get out of that situation, please.
It's really funny because when we were working on the film and we were testing it for different audiences, we had a focus group after one of the screenings, and we had somebody in the test audience who had a daughter who is about to apply to colleges. And I really, really liked this person. She was basically there with, you know, a pad of paper and a pen, and was, you know, they'd ask her questions about the film or this and that, and say, okay, well, are you a horror fan? She'd say, no, I'm just like, this is just research for my daughter. I'm just taking notes and trying to see where she should go and where she shouldn't go.
You know, Mariama, one of the things I find interesting, you were talking about this earlier in the first answer to quite about the idea of you should put yourself into the actual story almost too much. And I wonder cathartically, as you make the film and as you direct the story and write the story, how does it help you deal with anything that you have in your own life? And since you mentioned like you putting yourself into the story, do you find it cathartic? Did you work things out that were kind of not worked out prior? Like, do you feel like a different person after kind of like putting it through this process?
Yeah, certainly. You know, the thing that was interesting is that going into it and throughout the writing process, I felt a lot more aligned with Gail. I felt like I was really seeing the world of the film through Gail's eyes, which is funny because, you know, the more direct correlate to what I had gone through was, you know, Jasmine, who's an actual undergraduate there. I've never, you know, been a professor at a school like that. But I think that I had been distancing myself from the core of my experience as an undergrad. And even in the writing, you know, I felt like Gail. I felt as if I were, you know, how Gail is observing Jasmine and understanding some things about her and seeing that she's in trouble, but not entirely knowing how to help her or what to do. I felt in the same way that I was looking at this younger version of myself. And, you know, I was uncovering things that I had suppressed when I was going through it. You know, I think that it was a very sort of layered and complicated experience for me as an undergraduate because there was a lot that was very pleasant. There was a lot that was really wonderful that came out of that experience. I met my very, very best friends, and I met amazing professors, some of whom I'm in touch with today, and I grew. But in order to go through that in a space like that and graduate with, you know, most of my sanity, I also had to discard all kinds of, you know, information that was coming at me that was super detrimental. And so I think that the process of writing and making the film required me to go back there and to look at stuff that I had been purposefully ignoring the first time I went through it. And so that was incredibly, you know, it was challenging, but it was also really therapeutic because I think that there's a way in which my story wasn't complete after I graduated because I hadn't looked it square in the eye. And I really had to do that when I was making this film. And so I definitely feel released. I feel released from that now, having gone through this whole journey.
That's so interesting that you were able to get that therapeutic experience while making your first feature. That's awesome. Yeah.
People look for that everywhere.
Wait,
I want to dive. Yeah, well, without paying for therapy, essentially.
Oh, yeah. I was like, wait, hopefully you got paid for the movie.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah, right, exactly. I got paid to go to therapy. Yeah.
I really want to get into the technical aspects of your visuals because your lighting it's ominous and it's terrifying and it's really, really effective in so many scenes. So if you can just elaborate sort of on the choices that you made to get the look that you wanted.
Yeah. So I knew very, very early on that I wanted the fictional Ancaster to be a presence in the film. And I wanted it to feel almost as if it's a character and to really hover over the characters and always sort of be lurking, and for a viewer to get the sense that they're never far from the weight of that institution and everything else that comes along with. And so, in conversations with Charlotte Hornsby, who shot the film, we talked a lot about how the camera could bring that element into the emotional experience of watching the film. And we talked about this sort of very genteel, very staid, very composed sort of film. We wanted to be very sparing with handheld because it didn't necessarily feel like that was within the lexicon of the space. And that we wanted to replicate this feeling of being watched from afar, of being observed,
I like the zooms.
The zooms, right?
Yeah, the zooms are really cool. Yeah.
Or even just when other characters in the scenes turn to look at your protagonist or your point of view of your camera. And I at those times I'm like, turn around. I don't want to see you.
Yeah, completely. Like looking and being looked at was another aspect that I wanted to kind of seed throughout the film. So we wanted to make this feeling of this predatory camera, that's just, but it's taking its time and it's really just creeping up on these characters and it will get there in the end. So that's a lot of what we talked about at the outset.
That's awesome.
And if I'm also correct, I believe it's Charlotte's first feature, and I could be wrong on that too. But your DPs, but I know that she had shot short films as well. Is that? Do you feel that could be a continued relationship? Like, do you think you found your DP going forward?
I mean, yes, Charlotte is brilliant and I would love to work with her again. She's great. This actually wasn't her first feature. She worked with a director named Harula Rose on a film called Once Upon a River. But, definitely an early feature and a wonderful collaborator.
So we've been talking to a couple of filmmakers who got their film into Sundance, much like you did. And then of course, Sundance goes virtual and I'm thrilled that you're now in South by Southwest. So I was just curious if you're going to be able to go and see it with an audience.
Yes, I had to go. I obviously in the world we live in, I understood why Sundance had to go virtual, but it's also heartbreaking in a certain sense because I was so looking forward to the experience of watching the film in a theater with an audience and really being able to sense how they respond to it, what is moving them or, kind of scaring them or what are they finding funny. And so I'm really excited to be able to be there in the audience at South by Southwest. We're going to be playing on Monday afternoon in the festival favorites section. So I'm really psyched about that. I can't wait.
That's so cool. Just being in the festival favorites has to be exciting too. Just being recognized as a festival favorite is great.
It's awesome.
Yeah, there are scenes that you're particularly interested in watching with that audience, and are there scenes that you're like specifically waiting to hear reactions for? Because I feel like it's interesting when you talk to filmmakers, the reactions of an audience could be different than the intention of what you were going for. And I wonder, like, in terms of your expectations of watching it like that, and kind of what you're hoping for.
Yeah, I'm definitely curious to see how the audience responds to some of the more supernatural or horror scenes. I want to see, because you hear from someone if they say, "Oh, it was scary," but when someone's scared and they're not scared, and so I want to see, are they tense or are they, are they relaxed? Are they feeling fine? There are also some moments of comedy that I love and that are always really fun for me. And I'm excited to see how they play. There's a moment towards the very end of the film that involves a City Girls cue that comes on that the first time we put that in, I basically pissed my pants. I really loved it. So I'd love to see if it's just me or if it's like, if that's also fun and kind of, surprising for other people as well.
For sure. I was blown away by Zoe and her performance. She is so tender, and so open. And so I just wanted to know what you saw in her during the auditions that made you realize she was the one.
Yeah, that was, it was really important to me and also to my producers to find an actor who could really embody this bright light, charismatic spirit of the Jasmine who we first meet at the start of the film, who's just got a very easy way about her and is so immediately, promising and young and excited and dynamic. And then also to be able to find an actor who's able to start there and then also be able to dig into all of the the darker parts and all of the, the more, the smaller, more minute, subtle kind of choices that you could make. And so this was pre-pandemic. Right. So when we were casting, we saw a lot of people in person who came in and read, and we saw, a lot of wonderful people, but not quite somebody who had who I felt really, nailed the role, the interpretation of the role. And Zoe was not New York based, so she sent in a tape, which, they're not necessarily the ideal, conditions for auditioning for something, but
sure,
within that tape, everything that she had to bring just really came across so strongly. And I knew from watching that she was really the person that I wanted to meet and that I felt really could play Jasmine. So she came up to New York, we met in person, we talked, and it was just so clear that she was the person. That's the girl. Or what is it in Mulholland Drive? This is the girl. That was that's what we said after she left.
David Lynch. You mentioned Mulholland Drive. That leads me into my next question because, we are talking to a first-time feature filmmaker. I mean, obviously, I mentioned you did shorts. But, while we have you now for the first time, who are your favorite filmmakers? I mean, David Lynch, I would imagine sounds like one of them. You've mentioned Mulholland Drive, but I mean, who else are you really into? Who did you grow up watching? Who are you liking now that's out there now as well?
Yeah. So David Lynch, I revere, I think, an amazing creator. And I really admire the way that he's able to move into, less logical spaces, but you always feel like you're in the hands of a filmmaker who is not just throwing weird shit out there. There's a grand plan, and he knows, even if you might not necessarily know literally the intent. Michael Haneke is a big,
French filmmaker.
Yes, who I just absolutely adore. I really love Cachet. The White Ribbon is another film that I've watched and rewatched so many times. And then a lot of the classic horror filmmakers or, filmmakers who made films in the horror space, Kubrick for, The Shining, but, even beyond, the more literal The Shining, I mean, Full Metal Jacket. I can never rewatch, especially the first half of Full Metal Jacket, which is also a horror film in its own way. And Vincent D'Onofrio and what he goes through, and it breaks my heart.
I skipped that half too. I'll just go right. I'm gonna go right to the Deer Hunter. There's two movies there too. It's an interesting thing they play with there.
Just amazing. So that, and then Don't Look Now and Rosemary's Baby, and just a lot of films in that kind of 60s 70s horror space. I really love.
I loved you mentioned The Shining because I honestly wrote down in my notes that room 302 is reminiscent of room 237. And so it's so great to hear that is a reference. I wish we had more time. Mariama, thank you so much for joining the ReelBlend podcast. And I'm really thrilled for you to go to South by, and I can't wait for people to check this movie out on Amazon Prime. So thank you for taking the time.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
We want to thank Mariama Diallo for joining the show. It's a pleasure to have her on, and you guys absolutely need to check out Master. Really great performance by Regina Hall, who is coming on as the new dean of students at a school, a headmaster at a college campus, and of course is coming into it as the first African-American headmaster at this school, and the types of sort of casual racism that she encounters by the rest of the staff, but then also this outstanding performance by an actress who I wasn't familiar with. Her name is Zoe Renee, and she's the new student who is coming on board and really figuring out how to fit in on a college campus, how to make her way socially, but also dealing with what is a ghost story in her dorm room that plays out in a really fascinating way. And I can't really reveal much beyond that, so I'll keep it there for spoilers. But Master is available on Amazon and is absolutely worth your time if you have a subscription. We're going to take a break right now to get to some advertising, pay for the show. But on the other side of it, we're going to be making our Oscar picks for this year's contest, so make sure you keep it right here. Okay, we are back, and we're going to get to what has become an annual tradition around here, which is the Oscar predictions.
For better or worse.
Well, yeah. And unlike the Academy, we go through every single category and we pick what we think is going to win. We do it here in the moment, not pre-recorded and cut into the main show, not hidden behind the premium wall at all. We're going to do it all here right for you. You can keep track at home by writing down our predictions. Kevin gave all of his picks to Gabe, so Gabe is going to read for him. And we're going to start with visual effects. So I get to go first for visual effects. I will read the nominees, then I'll pick, then Jake will pick, and then Kevin will pick. And we're going to rotate around because we play a little strategy to see like if we have the same picks for every category, if somebody deviates from the board, and how we can. And of course, the winner for in terms of things that we've done in the past usually gets to pick something for the losers to watch. And if you're new to the show, that is why Kevin and I have seen The Human Centipede Part 3. And Jake has remained unscathed.
What did you last? What did you have last? You had Lord of the Rings last year.
Lord of the Rings.
What
Yeah,
did I give? Didn't I make Kevin watch Lost?
You made him keep watching Lost, which
he
I
never.
don't know where he is on that. Yeah,
He's several seasons in.
I think he's on season 3. I think I only gave him like 10 episodes to watch, like whatever was equitable to you watching, like the length of your 3 Lord of the Rings was the amount of episodes that I gave him.
Oh, so like
and
a
Sean,
year and a half?
Sean, I forget. I forget which experience was worse, Lord of the Rings or Human Centipede 3?
Come on, Sean.
The Human Centipede 3.
Okay.
At least
come on.
There's some craft to Lord of the Rings, at least.
Well,
I can recognize it.
You know, the makeup and costume department in Human Centipede 3 was probably paid very well.
Let's get to visual effects. Speaking of, the nominees are Dune, Free Guy, No Time to Die, Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, and Spider-Man No Way Home. Gabe, you can pencil me in for Dune.
I am also going to pick Dune, but I would say too, not that I think it's going to win, but a movie like No Time to Die is the perfect example of a movie that could be a spoiler, because it's the kind of movie that has a lot more special effects than you think it does, which by definition is a sign of good special effects when you don't even realize they're there. Like Dune is very apparent of like, look at all the cool special effects we have, and it deserves to win, and I'm picking for it to win. Right. But No Time to Die had a lot more special effects than you even realize it had, which I think makes it a very deserving nominee.
Does Nolan's quote that it's he said something to the effect of the best visual effects I've ever seen, best
Dune?
For Dune,
right?
yeah. Nolan said that like it's the best representation of putting those in like the real world, like how seamless it was. Does that give that like a huge bump in the Oscars, or does that even matter?
For Kevin, it does.
For Kevin, it does.
Yeah. I mean, it did do a great job of stuff that looked very tangible. Like I felt like I knew what a lot of things in the Dune universe like physically felt like, and it also did a great job with scope. So yeah, I mean, very, very, very well deserved.
I also feel like lately the conversation has been about how bland the Spider-Man special effects or visual effects are. Like if you're paying attention on social media at all, they're ripping the movie for the amount of green screen that it uses. And there's been a conversation about like how lazy it is for them to like not be able to go to a park and like shoot a scene, like the scene of Peter and Happy at May's grave. Right. And my take on that is that like, they're so secretive, like that they can't just go out into
and it was also during COVID.
Shoot. Yeah, that's true. That's also true. But anyway, I think they're basically saying
well, because the one the shot that stood out to me was who's like the mean guy they go to school with the shot of him at the party when he picked up the phone, like was
Flash
a blue
Thompson.
that was a blue screen shot.
Yeah,
like he wasn't at a party, and that was the one where I went, really? Like you could, but then it was pointed out to me by a friend of the show, Chase, that he's like, well, like they probably didn't want to risk having 30 kids on set running around. And you go, and the thing is too, if I didn't notice when watching the movie, like, then isn't that mission accomplished?
Yes, I think so. But not enough to win an Oscar, is what you're saying.
Exactly. There are no big words.
Kevin also picked Dune.
Cool. Okay.
No competition here.
You're going to hear that a lot today. Yeah. Kevin also picked Dune. All right, costume design.
You're not wrong.
Costume design. Your nominees are Cruella, Cyrano, Dune, Nightmare Alley, and West Side Story. And Jake, you get to go first this time.
I'm going to go Cruella. I mean, I feel like the moment that, I mean, so much of that movie is about fashion, and the moment that she's on the back of the garbage truck, and that dress unfurled, I thought to myself, it's going to be tough beating that.
Yeah, I know. The only one I would probably counter with is West Side Story, but I think I have to go Cruella also here, because you're right. I mean, one of the driving narratives of that film even existing is for the fashion that they worked into it. So I'm gonna mirror you here and say Cruella.
And
Where's
Kevin also picked Dune.
There's potential here for Kevin to take a lead. He picked Dune. He picked Dune as well.
For costume?
Dune ain't gonna win costume.
It could.
It's not going to.
But okay. All right.
Well, you're
but
right,
it
could.
It has
Any
a
of the five
world.
could.
It has a world in so many different like societies of people that it had to build out with costume, whether it's the Fremen or it's the Atreides or it's the Harkonnen or it's, I feel like there was another, or some of the Imperial like guards and stuff. There's a lot there. If it were my call, it's a wash this year. Dune takes everything.
Well, yes, you're kind of biased for that, but I understand where you're coming from. Yes. All right, let's move to makeup and hair. There's makeup and hairstyling, and your nominees are Coming to America, Cruella, Dune, The Eyes of Tammy Faye, and The House of Gucci. Makeup and hairstyling. I get to go first this time, and I'm going with Tammy Faye. The Eyes of Tammy Faye. I think Jessica Chastain's, the work that they did on Jessica Chastain to make her look like Tammy Faye Baker alone is going to earn that team the Oscar for makeup and hairstyling. Jakey?
I also am going to go Tammy Faye, which is kind of a shame because I feel like it should go to Dune. I feel like what they did with the Baron Harkonnen is absolutely genius. And I got to be honest, I don't think I even whenever I saw the film, whatever months ago, I didn't think the makeup in Tammy Faye was great. So it sucks but it seems to be the direction that we're going in on this one. So unfortunately, I agree, and that I'm also picking Tammy Faye.
Okay. Where'd Kevin go?
Kevin went with Dune.
Did he really?
Yeah.
And you know, I swear to God, if we get to like the acting categories, he just goes Dune.
Dude.
I stand behind it. I stand behind it with my boy Kevin.
Well, okay.
I guess he doesn't.
If they're not going to give the damn thing Best Picture, give it everything else.
That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works.
I don't care. They're also not televising all of it, and that shouldn't be how it works.
Yeah, but like Jessica I think even Jessica Chastain is so confident that it's going to go to Tammy Faye that she's skipping the red carpet interviews to be able to go into the auditorium early to watch them deliver the best makeup Oscar.
Oh, I thought you were going to say she was going to go in early and get all the makeup done.
And get all the Tammy Faye makeup.
I would watch that. All right, let's go to music original song, and your nominees are Be Alive from King Richard, music and lyrics by Dixon and Beyonce Knowles Carter. Dos Oruguitas from Encanto, music and lyric by Lin-Manuel Miranda. Down to Joy from the movie Belfast with music and lyrics by Van Morrison. No Time to Die from the movie No Time to Die with music and lyrics by Billie Eilish and Phineas O'Connell, no relation. And Somehow You Do from 4 Good Days, music and lyrics by Diane Warren. Jake, you get to go first.
I'm of two minds about this one, because I think it's going to be between one of two songs. Encanto, obviously incredibly popular, and by winning, it would conclude Lin-Manuel Miranda's EGOT. Mm-hmm. And we know that the Oscars love a good narrative anytime that there's a story behind it. That being said, this Bond songs have a history of winning this award, and this is the last Bond movie in the Daniel Craig era, and I just feel like that is a bit of a stronger case. And also with Encanto, like that's not even the most popular song from the movie. And Lynn's been up for Oscars before for an Oscar that would have completed his EGOT. So I don't think that's quite enough to get people to vote his way. I think,
and he's going to keep contending.
Yeah, I would say he's not going anywhere. So I feel like because of that, I'm going to vote No Time to Die.
Those are all valid.
I was going to say, should I be giving out my reasoning? Like, I don't know if am I giving out my...
No, I like it. I think it's fantastic.
You're giving out your reasoning for the folks at home. We got to make it an entertaining show.
Okay.
Yeah.
I am. This is the first time you and I are going to break. I'm going with Encanto.
That's a very real possibility.
That movie is so popular. Michelle, obviously, you guys know, works in an elementary school, and she says that the student body there is obsessed with Encanto. They talk about it all the time. And while
how many of them are on the Academy?
None. None. Well, actually, I don't know. Who's to say? But while you're right, that might not be the best song in it. I think that there are people who are going to want to reward the music from that film and go with the song that was nominated. And I think you're 100% right. I think they love the narrative of honoring Lin-Manuel Miranda because his better film, Tick, Tick, Boom, this year is not going to get anything. Well, that's not true. I might have a little ace in my sleeve when we get to that in a little bit. But yeah, I'm going with Encanto. So Jake and I have split, and now there's a chance for me to beat him.
Kevin chose the song Dune from Dune.
Paul, was it called Paul's Departure? What is it? What is that?
I think it's just Paul's theme.
Paul's Dream. Paul's Dream. That's what it is.
That's right.
So Kevin's doing a write-in.
He's doing it right. Yeah. No Time to Die. Kevin went with No Time to Die.
Okay.
Which I think makes sense. I feel like they want to see Billie Eilish as many times as they can on stage. So
which is funny that I'm kind of amazed when it comes to like people they would want to see holding an Oscar. I'm surprised that Beyonce isn't a bigger like contender name.
Didn't she have a chance with the Lion King song? Did she get the Lion King song?
I don't think even if she was nominated, was she?
I'm not sure. I know that song only exists.
I've tried to block that movie out of my mind.
Yeah. All right, we're gonna move on to music original score,
which is a category you'll be able to hear about on Twitter. Not
correct.
On TV.
And here on ReelBlend, where we care about movies, you have Don't Look Up. It's original score. Don't Look Up, Dune, Encanto, Parallel Mothers, and The Power of the Dog. I go first this time. And give me Zimmer. Give me Hans Zimmer for Dune.
Same. I think
Kevin went with Power of the Dog.
Kevin went with Dune as well. It's a Dune across the board.
All right.
Across the board.
Johnny Greenwood could take that, right? No,
I feel like Dune. I mean, Zimmer's been a lock.
Did you guys see the live performance they did?
I did.
Where he's shredding guitar. You haven't seen it?
Oh, really?
He's awesome. Like shredding guitar. That's great.
You know what else I saw is that moment that he told us that he loved us on ReelBlend.
He said that we are. What did he call? What was the thing?
It translated into "I love you guys."
Show friends.
But it was
show
business. It's show friends. Yeah.
It's show friends.
Friend of the show. He said it himself. He's friend of the show.
He actually did.
The only guest to ever call himself a friend of the show.
Wouldn't that be hilarious? Like if he thanked us, but we didn't get to see it because they didn't air the category.
Oh my god! Oh, we'd riot. We'd riot.
But that's the bit of the montage that they show where he's like, "My friends on ReelBlend." We're like, wait, what did he say?
Or they cut away right before he says it. My friend's on a and then it cuts to the next guy.
My favorite podcast. And next up on the Oscars. We'll never know if it's us.
All right. Production design. Here are your nominees for the category. We have Dune. Big night for Dune. Dune, Nightmare Alley, The Power of the Dog, The Tragedy of Macbeth, and West Side Story. Production design.
I'm going Dune, baby.
You're going Dune?
Going Dune, baby.
This is hard. This is hard because I could easily see West Side Story or Nightmare Alley taking these.
I don't see Nightmare Alley as much of a contender on Sunday.
Yeah, as much as I'd love it to be, it's a good movie. It's really
but
good.
The production design in it is
amazing,
pretty exquisite. Like if it's folks in this category who are voting on it, I'd be hard pressed to see them overlooking it.
But is it the sort of thing where, and I don't agree or like this way of thinking, but we have this sort of tone over the Oscars.
Yeah.
If Guillermo hadn't won so recently, would there be like a fervor to be like, let's get a Guillermo project up there on stage because he's such an incredible artist? But maybe without that, there's not this push, even though it's a great film, it's just underappreciated and it doesn't even have that we want to see Guillermo on stage push.
And let me ask a question though, too, because is it going to be weird to see Dune, theoretically, as we're all saying, picking up all of these under the line categories?
I mean that's what happened with
not get Best Picture.
I mean that's what happened with Mad Max.
Yeah,
but Dune's a good movie.
Sometimes you just deserve to be punched in the face.
No, didn't you take that back? Didn't you just say that you were wrong?
Yeah,
recently?
didn't you just love it or something?
No, hold on. Yes, I might have said that, or I might have just said I wasn't as I shouldn't be as hard on Mad Max as possible. But here's the thing: I'm reading that book about the making of Mad Max.
How is it?
Buchanan just put out. The book is really good, and it's super in depth, and the format. It took me a little while to get used to. It's truly like an oral history where it's just like this person said, then this person said, then this person said, with like sound bites from each of them. So I've been rewatching Fury Road in order to kind of keep up with how it's going in the book. And I've reached the point of the movie where I lose interest completely, which is after they have basically reached the point and now it's nighttime and everything's washed in blue and the truck is stuck and they're trying to get it out of the tree. And that's when I was like, this movie's not that interesting anymore. Like I kind of lost interest in it. So now I'm backpedaling back to it's overrated.
And what's your production design pick for this year?
Give me Dune.
Dune? Yeah,
Kevin also
picked Dune.
All right.
It's Dune. It's a Dune sweep.
I'm not happy about that one though, because I feel like
that's then pick something else. Make it interesting.
Or you lose a point.
Or I know. I'm more interested in winning than I am with going with my heart. Okay, sound is our next category, and for that we have Belfast, Dune, No Time to Die, The Power of the Dog, and West Side Story. Jake, you're first.
Jake also picked Dune.
Sean also picks Dune.
Kevin picks Dune.
Yeah, God.
How many? We haven't really disagreed on much. It's gonna be close. It's gonna be very close. So
far, makeup and hair and original song.
And Gabe, if I know this is a weird time in the middle of our predictions to break down that, but is there a point system to it in terms of like one category is more valuable than another?
No, I've thought about that of like trying to figure that out. Like are like below the line stuff worth more points because maybe they're like not worth it. They're just all worth 1 point.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
If someone at home is a mathematical genius, can write up an algorithm and tell me the best way to do it, I'm happy to
I feel like someone in our audience is kind of that way. We've had people suggest like spreadsheets early on in the history of the show.
I have like 7 spreadsheets in front of me at the moment.
Let's get to film editing, a category that largely predicts what's going to win Best Picture. And so maybe use that to determine what you're going to choose, because your nominees in the film editing category are Don't Look Up, Dune,
Try Not to,
King Richard, The Power of the Dog, and Tick, Tick, Boom. Film editing.
Sean's up first for this one, right?
Oh, I'm up first. Give me Tick, Tick, Boom.
Yeah, I think Jake went first twice in a row. Could be wrong.
Oh,
really?
Did I mess it up? I'm sorry.
No, you didn't. You're good. It doesn't matter.
Give me Tick, Tick, Boom.
Okay.
For editing.
I'm gonna go Dune.
Ooh.
Yeah. I'm gonna go Dune. I'm gonna go Dune for editing.
Kevin also went with Dune.
Yeah, he did.
Oh my God! Come on,
Kevin also went with Dune. And yeah.
I mean, it's hard for me to argue. Got to mix it up a little bit here. All right, international feature film.
So hang on. So far of his 8 categories, 7 of them have been Dune,
and one of them was Tenet. Weirdly enough,
yeah, you threw Tenet in as well.
They're just now recognizing it. They finally figured it out, and they're giving it an Oscar. International feature film. Your nominees are Drive My Car, Flee, The Hand of God, Lunana, A Yak in the Classroom, and The Worst Person in the World. Jake, I'll go first again because I think you trumped me, and I will go with Drive My Car.
I will also pick Drive My Car.
Does Worst Person in the World have some buzz? I feel like I've seen people talk about it, but Drive My Car seems like
It does,
like
but
It's
but I
running
mean,
away with the competition.
oh my! Well, I mean, you say that, but like the one photo that they use for worst person in the world is the picture of the girl running down the street. That's like apparently the one graphic that the studio released for that movie. I didn't even think about it. I think Sean, you asked a question one time in an interview with someone where you mentioned like the 3 photos that were it was for Fresh when we were talking to the director and you asked her about like the 3 photos that have been. And I didn't think about that. Like whenever you so often see the same pictures, it's like you guys really got to release more photos than that.
We had a running joke about the Captain America Civil War trailer that the only photo you had of Spider-Man in the MCU for like a year was him holding the shield.
Yep.
So we wrote about that a lot. So anytime we did, we had to use that photo.
Yeah.
Remember how amazing that was to be like, oh my God, Spider-Man's holding the shield. And then you think about how Endgame had like everybody holding everybody's shit.
I mean, you just think about like how far we've come from like Nick Fury walking in at the end of Iron Man to like us being like, oh my God, Captain America is holding Thor's hammer.
Boy, I can't wait for more Marvel movies. It's become a drug. It's become a like, oh, I need more Marvel. I need that sensation.
I watched 4 episodes of a Moon Knight television show. Like, who would have thought that is a possibility?
More on that next week. We'll discuss that.
It exists. It's out there. All right. Documentary feature. We have Ascension, Attica, Flea, Summer of Soul, or When the Revolution Could Not Be Televised, and Writing with Fire. Jake.
I'm going Summer of Soul.
I am also going Summer of Soul.
Kevin also picks Summer
Kevin
of
chose
Soul. Have any of you seen it, or are you just going with the sort of the safe pick of the narrative, the buzz?
Yeah. I watched it. It's on Hulu.
It looks great. Is it great?
It's terrific.
Oh,
yeah, it's fantastic.
It's on my list.
And it's really someone brought this up in a review of it where they said, like, how did we not know that this event took place, kind of thing? And it's a great. I think I also just read recently about Scorsese lamenting the fact that like any film made in the 20s and 30s is just gone, right? It's like this absence of history where like if things haven't been documented, that there's a possibility that you just don't even know that they happened, kind of thing. And there's significant things like these performances or these movies that could just be lost to time. And so in a world where we as a society document everything of irrelevance, we need to put a little bit more emphasis on stockpiling our archives of important stuff. So that's my soapbox rant for today. Documentary short subjects. Here
we don't need to do that one. We don't do the shorts.
We're skipping it?
Yeah.
We've done them in the past.
Not the shorts.
Yeah. Gabe says no. You don't get it.
Our next category are cinematography. No offense to people who do the short films. I just know you guys haven't seen them, and we're just, what are we picking?
Yeah, that's fair. I was gonna have to choose by name.
Exactly.
All right. Cinematography.
Let me say, while we're on the subject of shorts, I believe I've plugged this before. Yes. I do go see the shorts. Typically every year. The way that they run them, like art house theaters will run them, you can go and see all of them in a block. Yeah. And they even, the theater in my market spaces them out so that when one ends, the other category begins. So me and a friend usually go. I recommend it to anyone. It's a really fun time. You get to see a lot of cool stories, and it's often, there is no one track to becoming a filmmaker, but it's a great track for people to become feature filmmakers. And you see these great stories, and it takes you, a few hours, like a double feature.
I would laugh really hard if you managed to see all of the shorts and none of the Best Picture nominees gave.
I haven't gone to the shorts yet. I have to look and see if they're doing it this year. Last year was a wash, obviously, but yeah, it's great fun.
Is it like AMC or someone does it? Is it like one of the chains that does it, or
maybe they do it there? I know AMC does their whole they have like an artisanal section, but for me, it's just it's this place called the Tivoli. It's a local art house theater that puts on independent films and year of A24s kind of thing.
Cool.
Nice.
All right, let's move on to cinematography, a category that we are all very invested in. And this one is not easy. All right. So Kevin picked Dune. We have Nightmare Alley.
Kevin picked Dune.
We have Nightmare Alley, Dune, Nightmare Alley, The Power of the Dog, The Tragedy of Macbeth, and West Side Story. And I think I go first. Do I go first?
Sure. Yeah.
Give me Janusz.
Ooh. This one could go a lot of different directions, but I'm gonna go Dune.
Okay. And Kevin also went Dune.
Of course he did.
I think that there's a lot of people who have really woken up to the beauty of West Side Story recently.
That tweet helped.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, like,
But
everyone's
also,
on board with
Power
this
of the
being-
Dog is also a massive contender there.
Well, actually, I thought the black and white cinematography of Tragedy of Macbeth.
Yeah.
I thought this might be one that Power of the Dog gets, but she
It
seems to
could.
be getting directors, so maybe there's not the like.
The
Fine
cinematography in Power of the Dog is actually really
It's gorgeous.
beautiful. Yeah, it's fantastic.
Yeah.
But give me Janusz.
And how and the way that they framed a lot of the shots using like the barn and barn and doors and windows
Yeah.
and stuff like that is fantastic.
All right. We're getting into our screenplay categories, and we're starting with original screenplay. So we have Belfast, Don't Look Up, King Richard, Licorice Pizza, and The Worst Person in the World. Best original screenplay. Jakey, take us away.
So I think there are two different narratives here.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, there's like 5. They're all narrative films.
Well done.
Okay.
I think there is the Paul Thomas Anderson is long overdue for an Oscar, and there is the Belfast is long overdue for an Oscar. I'm sorry, not Belfast, Kenneth Branagh. I am gonna choose Belfast, and my reasoning behind that is for the WGA for original screenplay. Don't Look Up won. Belfast was not eligible, so that should have been an easy gimme for Licorice Pizza, and it was not. Like that should have been an easy. If it's truly just between Licorice Pizza and Belfast, that should have been an easy win. And the fact that it didn't win WGA makes me think that maybe that screenplay doesn't have quite the support from the Writers Guild as we think. And I think then if that's the case, Belfast has got to win something. You would think, yes, it peaked way too early, and as movies during Oscar season tend to do. But this could be sort of the like, look, we gotta, maybe we're not going to give you all the awards you thought you were going to win, but here's something. And also, like Kenneth Branagh, this is his 8th nomination, I think. Like, the man deserves it by this point. So I'm going Belfast.
I am too, and largely for the reasons that you talked about, because I've watched a lot of the Oscar experts, quote unquote, and the minute that Don't Look Up won, they all said in unison, "Oh, okay, well that means Belfast is going to win the Oscar," which I found really interesting. And while I do agree with Licorice Pizza because of the Paul Thomas Anderson of it all, as much as Kevin loves that movie, the script is pretty rambling. Like it's kind of like, we call it like a bit of a hang and a mood picture.
But like Tarantino's Hollywood was a hang in the mood, and that script was flawless.
Well, yeah. That's all written into the script.
Yeah,
I think.
exactly.
Whereas I feel with PTA and maybe it is all in his script. I'm not sure, but it felt like the approach to that picture was a little bit more laid back. Whereas, he's out of the screenplays that are dialogue driven, more focused. The only thing, I wonder if The Worst Person in the World ends up becoming, because everyone talks about how extremely funny it is, and the characterizations in it are really, really strong too. But I'm going to go Belfast as well too here. So did Kevin go Licorice Pizza?
He went Dune somehow, even though it's not original. No, he went with Licorice Pizza. Yes.
Yeah, okay, I figured he would.
Kevin is an enormous fan of that film.
Loves that film.
After revisiting it multiple times. I love when he catches on to a movie and really
I both love it and hate it because whenever it comes to me that like Kevin's really sinking his teeth into a movie, the way I interpret that is, Jesus Christ, I'm going to be hearing about this for the next 6 months.
Yes.
6 months. He still talks about it.
Tell me I'm wrong. Yeah.
6 months. We're going to be hearing about Oppenheimer for 2 years. He's just filming it right now. All right. That brings us to adapted screenplay, where we find the nominees are Coda, Drive My Car, Dune, The Lost Daughter, and The Power of the Dog. I'm up first.
Sean is up.
That's hard. Give me. Shoot, that's not easy. I'll go the Power of the Dog in that one. I'll go Power of the Dog.
Jakey, where you at?
I'm gonna go Coda.
Okay.
This is where we start veering in terms of like the direction we think the night is gonna go.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously the director of Coda was not nominated for Best Director, and I think this could sort of be used maybe as a makeup for that. Because she also wrote the screenplay.
Okay.
Okay.
Interesting.
All right.
Kevin went with The Power of the Dog.
There we go.
Okay. All right.
All right. Where are we there then? Animated feature. Find the nominees.
We're moving along this year. Moving along.
Here are your nominees for animated feature. I'm writing my picks down as we go too. Encanto, Flea, Luca, The Mitchells versus the Machines, and Raya and the Last Dragon. Give me God.
This is great podcasting.
I was gonna say while he's thinking, Raya and Mitchells versus the Machines feels like they came out 2 years ago.
That's fair.
I feel like they came out forever
I'm going to be
ago.
completely honest with you. Morbius feels like it came out 2 years ago.
Well, it kind of did. It almost did.
Yeah.
Give me Mitchell's versus the Machines.
Okay. Jake, do you have yours on tap?
Yeah, I'm going to take Encanto.
Okay.
This is where Jake wins.
I just feel like that has a little bit more of a vibe going for it at the moment.
God, this is where Jake wins.
Kevin also went with Mitchell's versus the Machines.
Yeah.
So this is an
where
opportunity for Jake to take some points.
This is where Jake wins. Honestly, this is where it
Or
boils down to
loses.
where
You can
Jake
look at it that
wins. Have you listened to the show before?
Note that for listeners. Let's see how this ends out.
Well, what won it
right.
for me? Last year I won because of My Octopus Teacher. That was when I won.
Is that it? Really?
Because we were
I think
very
it came
close
down
up to
to-
that point.
Actually, I
It came
can
down to My
look right
Octopus
here. I
Teacher.
have it in front of me. Let me take a look.
All right. While you're
2021.
doing that, I will do supporting actress. Your nominees are Jessie Buckley, The Lost Daughter, Ariana DeBose for West Side Story, Judi Dench for Belfast, Kirsten Dunst for The Power of the Dog, and Anjanou Ellis for King Richard. Jakey, you go first.
I think DeBose is maybe the easiest pick to make for the entirety of the Oscars this year.
I would agree 100%.
Kevin also went with
Dune.
DeBose.
Kevin chose the worm from Dune.
No. There's an easier one. There's definitely an easier one.
Okay. I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we'll get to it in a heartbeat. So what did Kevin went with DeBose? Also?
DeBose, yes.
Okay. Actor in a supporting role. Your nominees are Kieran Hines for Belfast, Troy Kotzer for Coda, Jesse Plemons for The Power of the Dog, J.K. Simmons being The Ricardos, and Cody Smith McPhee for The Power of the Dog. I am going with Troy Kotzer.
As am I.
As did Kevin.
Okay. Actress in a leading role. Your nominees are Jessica Chastain for The Eyes of Tammy Faye, Olivia Colman for The Lost Daughter, Penelope Cruz, Parallel Mothers, Nicole Kidman for Being the Ricardos, and Kristen Stewart for Spencer. Jakey?
I'm going to go Chastain. And while I do think that all 4 acting categories are pretty close to locked, this would be the one I would say has the biggest chance of an upset. Not that I think it's going to happen, but if you told me one of the 4 acting categories is not going to go the way you think, I would say I bet it's going to be actress then. So I'm going to go Chastain.
Give me Kristen Stewart.
Oh, there we go.
What a
This is where
turnaround.
Sean
He started
loses.
with there's no way they'll give it to her because she said she doesn't care. And now he thinks she's going to take it.
I'm rallying behind Kristen Stewart. Here we go.
Kevin also picked Jessica Chastain.
Okay, that's where I live.
So this is where Sean can get some points back
I could get some points back.
or widen the gap.
Because she wasn't nominated for SAG, is that correct?
That is correct.
So this is where her or actor body gets behind, the acting body community, the body of actors in the community get behind.
That's one way to convince yourself.
Yeah.
Yes.
I will.
So tell me more about how the group that didn't even nominate her for an award is going to be the same group that gives her an award. Explain that. I'm looking forward to seeing that.
Can I change?
No, he's locked in, baby.
I can change, can I? Wait, Gage, can I change?
Sure, I don't care.
Come on, double down. You already lost because of animated feature.
Give me Chastain.
Oh, he's gonna go with Chastain.
No.
Give me Chastain.
Lame.
Yeah. I can't.
Lame.
Lame.
What happened to you had your rally towel?
I did.
I hope she wins. I hope she wins.
That
wins.
was the shortest like rally defensive. It's not even like we finished recording the episode and you let it sink in for a few days. Like we didn't even get on to the next category.
Hold on, Jake. I'll put it into terms that you would understand. In the middle of making my pick, some guys were slamming their trash can lids to warn me off of selecting.
And what happened to those guys? They won a championship.
Did they though?
Yes.
What's that little? I'm confused when I look up the standings. What's the little? There's a little.
Do you want me to send? I send this article to everybody. Do you want me to send you the article that breaks down the history of all major baseball teams cheating?
Don't they call it the Asterix?
Who wrote that? The coach?
Actor in a leading role. Let's get the actor in a leading role. Javier Bardem for Being the Ricardos. Benedict Cumberbatch for The Power of the Dog. Andrew Garfield, nominated for Tick, Tick, Boom. Will Smith for King Richard. And Denzel Washington for The Tragedy of Macbeth. I get to go first. This is the other slam dunk that I was referring to earlier. This is Will Smith's category to lose.
I agree. And you know what? I'm going to be like, I want to see Will Smith up on that stage holding an Oscar. Like that's an image that I'm very happy with seeing.
I'm okay with it, but Andrew Garfield gave a better performance than he did. I'm sorry. I would even argue that in Power of the Dog,
welcome to the Oscars.
Cumberbatch might have, but yes. But this is, as Denzel Washington said to Will Smith at one of the award shows, this is your year, my friend.
But you're not upset to see Will Smith win an award, I'm sure.
Not at all. No,
exactly.
No.
It's Will Smith.
I'm very happy for it. Yeah, I should have won it a while ago, I would say. All right, we're at director.
Really quick before we move to that, do you remember the year Pacino won? Like what do you remember were you following the awards? It was the early 90s. Were you following the awards closely enough? And was there that vibe of like, this isn't the one he should be winning for, but he should have an Oscar by now kind of thing?
100%.
Yeah.
Yes. Everyone felt that way, including him. Like,
you think so?
Oh, yeah. I'm not saying that he probably felt that he didn't deserve an Oscar for that performance.
Sure.
It was a very popular film. But that's the reason why hoo-ha is kind of a joke, is that it's not a representation of his best performances by any stretch, largely because he has 10 performances that could be argued some of the best performances of all time, and he wins for Scent of a Woman. So, it was kind of showy.
What if he had won for Godfather Part 3?
Oh Lord!
That'd be such a weird thing where it's like arguably his best role, but like that's the Godfather you'd want to give it to him for. That's so that's interesting.
That would be a shame.
He says about his own question.
All right, directing. You have
I wanted to see you do that mid-interview. You asked someone a question. Actually, never mind. That's tough.
That's a good. Yeah, that's all. I've thought that a couple of times. I'm sure.
Let's see. We have for directing, we have Kenneth Branagh nominated for Belfast. We have Ryusuke Hamaguchi nominated for Drive My Car. Paul Thomas Anderson for Licorice Pizza. Jane Campion nominated for The Power of the Dog, and Steven Spielberg nominated for West Side Story. Jake.
My turn. This is actually what I thought you were referring to when you talked about the slam dunk. I think Campion is a stone cold lock.
You didn't think Will Smith?
No, Will Smith too. But whenever you said something about like, oh, there's another lock, my mind went to, oh my God, that's right, Campion is But no, Will Smith is a lock as well. Actually, like I said, I think that the 4 acting categories and director are maybe the most boring categories this year.
They should have put those off air.
We're not gonna show Will Smith getting his Oscar, but we will show you best sound.
I really want to go with Spielberg here.
Ooh, do it.
I really want to go with Spielberg here.
Do it.
I don't think it happens.
Do it. Shut up, Gabe. Do it.
either.
Sorry, it's definitely going to happen.
I don't think it's going to happen either. You can put me down for Jane Campion also.
You're in the Jane Campion camp? You're in the Jane camp?
Kevin chose Denis.
Thank you very much for playing the role of Kevin in today's episode.
Kevin also picked Jane Campion.
But this is going to be one of those categories that we do on a premium one year. And we're going to say, how on earth did Steven
But you guys
Spielberg
didn't love
not
it,
win
right?
For West Side Story. Which one? West Side Story?
No. You're talking about how did he not win for West Side Story? I see.
How did he not win for West Side
Yeah.
Story? Is what we will say.
I voted for Spielberg for CCA.
Did he win?
No, he didn't. I'm just saying, like.
Does Sam Elliott get to vote in the Academy?
He does.
That's one down. That's one down.
That's one down. There are so many things wrong with Sam Elliott's argument.
Yes.
But one of the smaller issues I had is him complaining that they filmed this Western in like New Zealand. And it's like, has he never seen a Sergio Leone film? Like,
or just go tell that to Clint Eastwood himself.
Yeah. Tell Clint Eastwood that they have to be filmed. Yeah.
All right.
Sam Elliott.
We're at the end of the night. Most of the categories have been handed out. We are at Best Picture, which I assume is not going to be read by Warren Beatty this year. They're going to get somebody who can read the card. And we have for nominees, Belfast, Coda, Don't Look Up. So weird to say. Drive My Car, Dune, King Richard, Licorice Pizza, Nightmare Alley, The Power of the Dog, and West Side Story. Those are your Best Picture nominees. Jake, where are you at?
I'm going Coda.
Oh, wait. Oh, you're going Coda?
Yeah. Sorry. I think it's just hitting at just the right time. And it's all about that short, week window where Oscar voters are voting. And in a weird way, it feels like a lot of Oscar voters didn't even discover Coda until after the nominations came out. Like, I think if they were to redo nominations, I think it would have gotten a director nomination. I think Marlee Matlin, I think Amelia Jones would be much more involved. I think editing would have been a part of it. Mm-hmm. But I think the best thing it has going for it is that it hit at just the right. And we talk so often about movies that peak too far in advance. They pull a Social Network or A Star Is Born. And you can make the argument. I mean, and even it kind of feels like Belfast did that this year, where it peaked a little bit too early. And it's not so much that Power of the Dog peaked too early, but they didn't quite peak right at the right moment, quite like Coda did.
Interesting. I'm going with The Power of the Dog, because for Coda to win, I feel like the Academy would have to do the right thing. And the Academy doesn't do that at all. Rarely, if ever. And the director picture split, while it has become more, it's happened more often recently, I still think it's pretty rare. I think that there's a decent amount of older Academy members who will connect with the Western element of The Power of the Dog in a way that Sam Elliott did not, and they will appreciate the craft that goes into it. And for a long time, that movie was considered the front runner. And I know you talk about peaking too soon, but it was the front runner for a reason. Like, there's plenty of people who really
statistics
do love it.
Are on your side, and it does seem strange that a movie that was nominated for 12 Oscars would only, based on my predictions, only walk away from the night with one award, it being Best Director. Right. But it does feel like all of these statistics that we've been using over the last really 3 to 5 years have started falling by the wayside. Like, there seems to be a lot less rhyme and reason to it. Okay. I feel like you know, if you shoved $1 million in chips over to my side of the table and said pick one,
Yeah.
safe bet would probably be Power of the Dog.
Sure.
I just feel like past few years we've gotten the Parasites, we've gotten the Shape of Waters.
Mm-hmm.
So it started. We've gotten it's just starting to feel like they're thinking outside of the box. So Power of the Dog is starting to feel like a Roma to me.
Okay.
Where it gets director. They appreciate the craftsmanship that went into it, but don't ever award it. Either way, I think we're about to see a streaming service win their first Best Picture.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And to me, that's also a factor in this. Mm-hmm. Netflix has been hungry for an Oscar.
In a
for Best
big,
Picture
bad
Oscar
way.
And Apple, I still feel is just like, happy to be here.
Yeah.
This is great. Thank you so much for the nomination.
Because they've also got Ted Lasso.
Yes, they do. But that cast, when they won SAG, it was a great story, and their reaction went viral, and everybody was very, very happy for them. And you're right, it is peaking at the right time, and so it's very possible it could ride that momentum.
There's an interesting comparison being made that if it is accurate, works in your favor, which is the Little Miss Sunshine comparison.
Okay. Which
is that I'm trying to get exactly. Little Miss Sunshine won the SAG.
Okay.
It was nominated for Best Picture, but didn't get a Best Director nomination.
Okay.
It won Screenplay and Supporting Actor.
Alan Arkin. And then went on to lose Best Picture. To what? Do you remember?
I want to say The Departed.
Oh, really?
Departed.
Okay. Yeah, I believe it's The Departed. Because he was a co-op. But then again, the reason I feel like that's not an accurate comparison is that was always going to be Marty's year.
Yeah.
The Departed came into that award season. Basically, it's like if you're half good and do well at the box office, give it to Marty.
Okay. All right,
so it's an interesting comparison, but I don't think it's quite the exact same. There's not quite it's Campion's year quite like it's Scorsese's year.
For sure. Yeah. I see what you're saying with that. Where'd Kevin go?
Kevin went with Coda.
Hot damn! That's what I'm talking about.
That's good for me.
Well, you don't want him to because that would be points that you get.
Yeah, but he lost like 8 others.
It's a very good chance that I just pulled.
Hey, don't talk about Dune like that.
Sticking with tradition.
Yeah, I didn't pick Dune.
Yeah.
If he really loved Dune, he would pick it.
It's my pick.
Wait, what is your pick for Best Picture?
Dune.
Okay, what's your pick to win?
Dune. I refuse to accept reality if it loses.
Is that why you got a Roma poster behind you?
Yeah.
You like surrounding yourself with Best Picture losers?
It's got it won there.
It lost. What are you going to say? It lost.
It lost.
It did lose.
And Drive too, right?
The nomination is the win, Jake.
Is it though?
Very true. I feel like with Dune, we're going to wait for the Dune Part 2, and they'll give everything to Dune Part 2.
Dunes?
Right? Dunes. Tune. I still think it's going to be Tune. That'd be great. That takes us to This Week in Movies with 3 films that are not eligible for this week's Academy Awards, but could contend for the Oscars next week. But we're starting with an HBO Max movie.
Next year.
Oh, next year. I'm sorry. Yes, that's what I meant to say.
Hey, they've been messing with that window.
Very true.
That would be a shocker.
Starting with HBO Max's film Moonshot. I know nothing about this. It's a rom-com set on Mars.
It's kind of a young adult romantic comedy. It's about the things that young kids are going to have to deal with in the future, which is long distance relationships, but from one planet to another. And
that's
so
clever.
yeah.
I kind of like that.
Yeah.
All right. The Lost City is also coming out. Did you get a chance to see Lost City?
I did.
Oh, what'd you think of it? I
thought it's a very good version of a movie you've seen 10,000 times before. I mean, it's very. This is such a demeaning adjective, but it's cute. The chemistry is very strong between Channing Tatum and Sandra Bullock. Daniel Radcliffe, I think, makes it for a really strong villain, and I think he's making really cool choices post Potter. I think the biggest thing working against it is that unfortunately Brad Pitt is the best part of the movie. And when he leaves the movie, there is kind of this isn't as good as that stretch of time that Brad Pitt was in. And it's to no fault of anyone else, but it just feels like it kind of goes back into sort of generic adventure rom-com.
I would have loved to see the version of this where he was on that adventure.
Yes. Yeah.
It would have been very entertaining.
But how much could they really get to the point in the story that they want to get to with him there. I get that, but I agree.
Yeah, it's perfectly fine. What are you pointing at? Daenerys?
You see my dog?
No.
You not see her in the frame? Oh, I see her in my frame.
Now I see her. Yes. Now I see her. Sweet girl. Yeah, I thought it was perfectly sweet. Great example, like you said, of a movie. Some will argue, and some are saying that they don't make these types of movies that much anymore. And I think that that's fair. And if you enjoy romantic comedies like this, it's an okay version of one.
Yeah, I get the whole it's Romancing the Stone and they don't make Romancing the Stone, but that's such a very specific type of rom-com to say they don't make anymore, to be like, they don't make rom-coms in the jungle anymore.
Also,
sure.
Romancing the Stone.
Was it 7 Days and 7 Nights is the other one? 7 Days, 6 Nights?
6 Days, 7 Nights.
Harrison Ford and Anne Heche. Two people had zero chemistry.
I liked that movie.
I remember liking it as a kid. I don't know.
As a kid,
I was in 20 years.
Exactly.
Romancing the Stone is not a romantic comedy in any way, shape, or form. That does not
It's
qualify.
got the word romance in the title.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. It
And
does not
the
matter.
stone.
It's not dramatizing the stone.
It's
What are you getting at,
closer to an Indiana Jones film than it is. It's Zemeckis. It's Robert Zemeckis doesn't make he's not making a romantic comedy. This isn't Nora Ephron, for God's sakes. It's a legitimate.
Robert Zemeckis is one of the most
type
eclectic
thing.
filmmakers working today. Don't say
so-
that like he can't make a rom-com.
Well, I'm not saying he can't. I'm just saying he chooses not to.
I mean, sometimes he often makes masterpieces, and he also made Back to the Future 3.
Back to the Future 3 is fantastic. How dare you? Keep those words out of your mouth.
Would you guys agree,
Velocity
though, it's
was
worth
opening.
seeing? I think it's worth seeing. It's fun. If you're in for that tone and
In theaters?
that I think you make on your own, that's an investment, but it's fun. I think for me, there are times where I want that tone. I want that sort of popcorny. I want to see Sandra Bullock doing Sandra Bullock.
Sure.
Her chemistry with Channing Tatum is great. And I think
it's definitely not bad.
If you see the trailer and you're
not
like, I want to see that kind of movie, it does it great.
It's not bad.
Yeah.
The couples will go out and see this together because they haven't gone to see anything together in a while. Nothing's compelled them to go. They're not.
That would be such a great story for this weekend.
What's that?
If it crushes and it's it's the date movie this year. It's no one's been to a movie. It's so long.
That'd be terrific. Yes,
that'd be great.
Good for it. Okay, so let's get to the Daniels and Everything Everywhere All at Once, starring the brilliant Michelle Yeoh and Ke Huy Quan and Jamie Lee Curtis, an unrecognizable Jamie Lee Curtis, and the outstanding James Hong, the legend of James Hong. This film is unbelievably good, and I kind of feel like you want to skip forward a few minutes if you don't want to hear spoilers about it, because it's very hard to discuss it in any great detail without giving away at least enough stuff. So yeah, Gabe, take your headphones out. I'll say this much: it's a multiverse movie of sorts, where Michelle Yeoh is playing a wife and mother who owns a laundromat with her husband, and during a visit to the IRS where they are being audited, she learns that there is a threat to the multiverse, to the other universes that contain different versions of her character, Evelyn, and that she might be the only version that can help restore everything back to normal and away from the chaos that is sort of collapsing in on itself from those worlds. That's the most basic premise, essentially, and where it goes from there is truly outstanding. It is a marvel of storytelling in the way that I have no clue how they kept it as streamlined as they do, because it's extremely complicated, but I was never lost. Mm-hmm. It's masterfully put together. One of my comments coming out of it in South by Southwest was that it should be the front runner for best editing next year at the Oscars.
There will, whether it wins or not, there will not be a better edited film this year.
No, because it jumps all over the place, which is something that we say about films that are usually messy and choppy.
But I want to jump into just to the point you're talking about,
please.
Because one of the things I liked a lot about it is there were moments where I felt like I might be lost for a second.
Yeah.
And then a character in the scene expressed that they too were confused about what was going on, and then it was resolved in such a way so that both that character and then I were made to understand what was going on. So it even felt like the Daniels had such an understanding of what was going on in their moment that they probably, not in a like annoying exposition way, but kind of a like, okay, this might be getting a little complicated. Not saying that that's why they did it, but like every single moment I found myself worried that I was losing the narrative thread. Someone else expressed their confusion for me in the film, and I was brought back in.
Yes, exactly. And I can't, like, I want to sort of tell you like the direction that it's supposed to go in because of the different themes that it gets to, and the amount of like truly like big picture life stuff that it talks about. But I have a feeling, and tell me if you think I'm wrong, like even getting into that type of stuff gives away a little too much of what the movie's trying to get into, right?
And there's so many, and well, also too, is I feel like it might be a disservice to the film because there's so many individual aspects of it that when trying to explain out of context, when
trying for the YouTube watchers,
this is please. This is all the more reason why you should watch these things on YouTube. There's so many individual moments that if I were to try to explain out of context, you would go, wait, I'm sorry, what? Like if I were to be like, oh, that really sweet moment when the characters have hot dogs for fingers, you're gonna go, I'm sorry, what? Or if I were to say that really insane moment with the butt plugs, you're gonna go, I'm sorry, what? So yeah, I mean, it's one of those, but like it's one of those things that like it makes total sense. I have a question for you.
Yeah.
Is Spider-Man No Way Home the best thing that could have happened to this movie? And what I mean by that is it was kind of a crash course, Spark Notes introduction for a lot of average audience members on what the multiverse is. And this takes that concept, which Spider-Man kind of just by comparison dipped its toe into, and this dives into the deep end of the pool.
For sure. I give Everything Everywhere All at Once enough credit that I still think it does a really good job of explaining what's happening. That if we hadn't seen No Way Home, we still would have been able to be like, okay, I get what you're saying. There's multiple Evelyns. And to her credit, Michelle Yeoh plays each version, of the different Evelyns, because for people who, haven't had a chance to see it yet, like each of the different variations of the Evelyns are sprung from choices that she made over the course of her life. And so if one kept her on the one direction that led her to become the co-owner of this laundromat, you learn that like one decision sent her in a different direction where she became a famous singer. And one sent her in another direction where she became something else. And she figures out all of these. And the way that the movie explains it, you're right. It helped to see No Way Home, and more casual viewers could be like, oh, that's what the idea of the multiverse is. But I also do think the movie does an incredible job of sort of setting up what it is. It's also one of the most visually exciting films that I've seen in an incredibly long time. I made this comparison in the tweet that I wrote afterwards. I felt like I was watching The Matrix the first time.
And I both agree with you on that, but then also I feel like I have to explain because I've also been, I mean, the go-to line I've been telling everyone is like, it's if A24 made The Matrix. A24, the type of films A24 makes. Imagine if they made The Matrix, and that's kind of what this film is. But I also kind of feel like at least what I took from your tweet about The Matrix, because I remember seeing that a few weeks ago whenever you tweeted it from South by and going like, get the hell out of here. Like, come on. But then I felt like I saw it and went, oh, the way I interpret it and the way that I agree with is that it just made me think about life and the world around me differently.
100%. Yes, exactly. Yes, and also some of the technical aspects. The way that fight scenes are shot. Like Ke Huy Quan has this incredible fight in the middle of this movie in his dad clothes, and uses a fanny pack and everything.
His performance, I would argue, worthy of a supporting actor Oscar nomination.
Absolutely,
just astounding, absolutely astounding.
He's really terrific. Everyone in it is great. obviously, from what you can't tell from this conversation, Jake and I highly recommend this.
Yes. And we're also holding a lot back. Like I would love next week, I would love to, once Gabe's had a chance to see it and Kevin's back, I would love to do more of a deep dive spoiler conversation about it.
Yes.
I'm doing a like a 20-minute sit down with the Daniels next week on Wednesday, which I'm just beyond jacked about.
Oh my God. I can't wait to listen to that. That's going to be great. So I hope we get another screening of it here in the market, because it's definitely one of those movies that will be rewarded with multiple viewings. And so we'll be talking more about Everything Everywhere all at once for the next few weeks and probably through the year. So that brings us to our blend game for this week. And we are going to celebrate. You might not remember this because it's been a while since we had a show and reminded you that we're doing.
Honestly, whenever I saw the ReelBlend tweet, I was like, oh, that's right. That is who we're doing.
Yeah. Hashtag Penny.
When I get excited, my voice goes up like 8 octaves. Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
So I'll go first because mine's a little bit out of the box pick, because yes, she's a filmmaker, but I am going to celebrate her work as an actress, which is allowed. And I'm going to go with Laverne and Shirley because it's a show that if you didn't live through them.
I'll mute Jake during
Jake is. Thank you very much.
Wait, do we have the rights to that song?
Never.
We do not. That cost us a fortune. So I know that Jake is too young to have lived through the Laverne and Shirley.
I just sang the song.
But that's part of my point, is how iconic that show is, that even someone of your youth would know it to that extent. Like Happy Days, Mork and Mindy, and Laverne and Shirley like dominated television at a time when, well, granted, there wasn't a ton of stuff on, but they were really, really popular. And it was because
we had 3 whole channels.
Right, exactly. Laverne and Shirley were just terrific. Their comedy timing, their like the deliveries of what they put together, the way that they portrayed Midwesterners, people from Milwaukee, that wholesome sort of down home sitcom type personalities. Back when sitcoms were sort of the dominant form of storytelling on television, so much of that goes back to what Penny Marshall and Henry Winkler and Ron Howard and the casts who put those films together. Cindy Williams, obviously playing Shirley for Laverne and Shirley. They were iconic, and it was one of those deals where, like, when Laverne and Shirley showed up on Mork and Mindy, it was very similar to Samuel Jackson showing up at the end of Iron Man. Like, you would be like, oh my God, Laverne and Shirley were on Mork and Mindy. And it was a huge deal that like they just showed up at the beginning of the thing. So I thought her work in that has to be celebrated in the fact that we're doing a Penny Marshall blend. She goes on to become an amazing storyteller, an amazing director.
Similar. Would you compare this to like a similar trajectory to like a Rob Reiner, who was like meathead for so many years and then became a filmmaker?
Yes. And I think that they both came out of that very specific age of people being surprised.
Even Ron Howard. Ron Howard.
Yes. People being surprised that talent that you predominantly knew from television could go on and become filmmakers. And that's not like, why are we surprised by that now? They're talented people.
Yeah.
If you give them the opportunity and the stories. So yes, Penny Marshall 100% fits into that class. But I loved her. I thought she was so fantastic on Laverne and Shirley. Such a funny character. Such great comedic timing, wonderful, wonderful chemistry with Cindy Williams. And I'd be remiss if I did not talk about how much that show meant to me as a kid growing up, and how much we just enjoyed gathering around the old TV, the one TV in the house for appointment television, which kids don't know about anymore, and watching a show when it was on at a specific time, like Laverne and Shirley. So I'm actually going to go back and find, it's got to be on YouTube. I want to find the Mork and Mindy pilot because it's Robin Williams, and I just want to see kind of what he was like back in the day, trying to remember that performance. But Laverne and Shirley showed up in the Mork and Mindy pilot.
That's wild.
As a way to help launch that show. And I'm telling you, that was like, clear your schedule. You got to be in front of the TV when that happens. So that's my pick for Penny Marshall blend.
Yeah.
Jakey, where are you going?
I'm choosing her work as a filmmaker. And as much as I love Big, I'm going to go with A League of Their Own. It was always going to be something she did with Tom Hanks. But I feel like, Big is, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but like it's the Tom Hanks show. Like it's Tom Hanks and Robert Ledger, but it's the Tom Hanks show. League of Their Own, I think, is one of the best ensemble casts of all time. It
flawless.
truly feels like there are 3 or 4 actors in that movie you could make the argument that they're the lead. But it's also so many of the secondary actors are so well performed and fleshed out and given like their moment that you could ask 100 people who's your favorite character in A League of Their Own, and you might get 5 or 6 different answers, because that's how many great character, obviously you've got Gina Davis, you got Tom Hanks, but then with Madonna and Rosie O'Donnell, and I mean everything about
Laura
that movie.
Petty.
Yes, oh my God, and also just it's an incredible story. It's just a phenomenal story and such a specific slice of American history. It's one of the greatest sports movies of all time. It's one of the great acting ensembles of all time. It yielded so many, no crying in baseball, like what you can't. I remember even being when I was at the Field of Dreams game last year, and I heard someone shout that. I was like, wrong movie! Oh my God! But that's how like it's bigger than the movie itself now. And the rankings of iconic Tom Hanks lines, because I was thinking about this. He's got quite a few. Where do you put "There's no crying in baseball"?
Second, probably.
Second, after Box of Chocolates?
Box of Chocolates is,
Yeah.
I would assume it's gotta be.
But okay, where do you put Houston, We Have a Problem?
Up there.
Yeah.
Potentially
And then,
third.
And then
Third, I guess?
I think batting cleanup is Wilson with an exclamation mark.
Okay, yeah.
Does he have
a
a Toy Story quote?
You are not a toy.
Yeah, you are sad, strange little man. No, that's Buzz Lightyear.
That's Buzz.
That's
Yeah.
Buzz.
You are not a toy.
Toy.
Oh,
Your
you are a
child
toy. Yes.
Plaything.
You are a toy. That's a great. We should do Tom Hanks blend or
yeah.
Tom Hanks line blend one time. But
kinda like
I
that.
think No Crying in Baseball has to be up there.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Is it the one that is? But is it prolific in that it often just goes unattributed to Tom Hanks? Like because it's such a like American baseball line.
That's the thing. It's gotten bigger than itself. Like there are probably people that use it without even knowing that it like where it's from. But the best part of the line is a part that doesn't really get attributed, and it's like him starting and stopping and taking the beats to try to figure out what's going on. With him going like, "Are you?" And then there's like a beat, and he goes like, Are you crying? And then he kind of like looks around like he's trying to comprehend. He goes, "There's no crying." And then there's like another beat. Like it's to me, the moment is the whole thing. It's not just that line. It's him building up to that line, which is fantastic. Do you agree, Daenerys?
That's Direction. It's Direction by Penny Marshall, who's leading him through. So let's throw to Kevin's pick. Kevin
I have
has
a pick as
recorded
well.
a pick.
I have a pick as well before we go to Kevin.
No,
Wait,
we're like 184 episodes in, and now all of a sudden you want to play the game?
Well, no, when I'm on, I make picks.
picks, but go ahead, please lead the way.
No, I always make a pick when I'm on. I begrudgingly make a pick, but I make a pick. For me, it was pretty simple. I don't have as much affection for her as an actor. By the time I was watching her, I wasn't there for Laverne and Shirley, and a lot of her acting was like these guest roles that were like.
She was on Entourage.
She was on Entourage. But I do. A League of Their Own is great. I don't have as special a connection to A League of Their Own as I do with Big, which is my pick. Okay. There's the Tom Hanks of it all. As Jake mentioned, it's the Tom Hanks show. And for me, like whenever I was cognizant of movies and watching movies, I was never surprised by Tom Hanks. Tom Hanks was just one of the most incredible people alive. I had Big, I had Money Pit. I also had Toy Story, and I had, even like Saving Private Ryan. Like I had that whole. He was kind of could do anything, and so Big is important to that. But more importantly, I think for me, it's if not the earliest, it's one of the earliest examples of a film where I felt like I was watching a movie that I wasn't old enough to watch. It's rated PG, but it feels like a movie that like shouldn't be. Like it doesn't feel like a young movie. It's a fun movie, but it can be dark and it can be sort of adult in the way that it handles things. And I vividly remember watching that for the first time and being like creeped out by the thing in the carnival or whatever. I can't remember what that guy's called.
The Great Zoltan?
Yes, the Great Zoltan. I'd be creeped out by that, and then some of the adult overtones that were like going over my head, but I could tell that there was like more going on there. It had a big impact on me as someone who was falling in love with films, of like not understanding everything that was happening in front of me, but also feeling like I was getting away with watching something that like, I shouldn't be. And even to this day, when it comes on and when I watch it, I there's this weird feeling that I get internally of like, discomfort is the wrong word, but it's that feeling. It's that feeling of like, oh, this feels edgier than it is. And I'll always love that film for that, and her for bringing that direction to it. So,
and also, Gabe, I feel like for someone like our age who grew up with Tom Hanks as this dramatic actor, and didn't grow up with him in that very long stretch of time where he was a hilarious comedic actor, Big is a good like gateway to that other period of his career. Like for a younger audience, they see Big, they see a different side of Tom Hanks maybe they're not used to, and then people can go, well, he did a whole decade in a sitcom where he was doing movies like this. Could
he ever go back to that? Do you think he has any ability to go back and do a comedy like that?
I mean, I feel like, when he goes back to do Toy Story, he's doing it. He's doing a version of that. Okay. It's a different type of comedy. I know he tried with Lady Killers. I put the fault at that more on the Coen brothers than I do Tom Hanks, because I do find his performance in that kind of interesting. I think so. I think he has it. In him. But also,
I would love to see him
with Woody. Go ahead. Because with his comedy, it was very energetic. Yeah. Like Splash and Big and movies like that.
Because when the whole story behind Toy Story, when they were trying to explain Toy Story to him at a time where that type of animation was not known, they did a very rough sketch of Woody, and they put his audio from Turner and Hooch. Oh, okay. In Woody, because it was that kind of inflection. It was that very high pitched, like, come on, Hooch, like that very,
I specifically would love to see him do, like, Money Pit is one of my favorite movies of all time.
I love the Money Pit.
And that tone and that humor in Money Pit I love. I would love to see him return to that.
You know who I'd pair up with? I want to see Tom Hanks and Michael Keaton both go back and do a comedy. But I feel like they just don't get the opportunities that much anymore, and they both knocked it out of the park back in the day.
Put them both in the new Beetlejuice. That's what we'll do.
Yes, I would watch.
That's great.
That would be terrific.
I can't believe I just said the phrase and meant it genuinely. I put the fault on the Coen brothers.
You did, but for that movie.
Deserve
it. Michael Breen went with Awakenings. Rachel Ho said Renaissance Man, and when Rachel said that on Twitter, I thought she didn't direct Renaissance Man, and then I went back and looked, and sure enough, she did.
I interviewed Mark Wahlberg recently, and he was talking about how big of a deal Penny Marshall was to his career, and I, in the moment, was kind of ashamed because I was like, "What the hell, Penny Marshall movie was Mark Wahlberg in?" And apparently, he has like a bit part in Renaissance Man.
Oh, no kidding. Really?
And that's kind of that was before he did the movie Fear. Apparently, like he really credits Penny Marshall with like taking him seriously and not just an underwear model and a rapper, and treated him like it. Yeah. So Renaissance Man.
Well, Amanda Young, Joel McFarlane, and so many others went with A League of Their Own. I mean, I saw that one mentioned over and over again. And a lot of people put really personal reasons why they went with A League of Their Own. They have fond memories of it, or were watching it with somebody who was very important to them. So that was definitely a really popular pick. We are going to have some fun next week. Yes.
And now, before we get to next week's pick, we can throw to Kevin.
Oh, I'm sorry. Kev, you have a pick.
Kevin picks Dune.
What it is.
All right, guys. Sorry I missed the show this week, but I wanted to submit my blend game pick for Penny Marshall blend. And, it's interesting because I was just interviewing Mark Wahlberg recently for Uncharted, and he was telling me a great story about how Penny Marshall was a huge help in his career initially when he started. And it's funny that we're coincidentally doing Penny Marshall blend now, because I was interested in to know like that whole story between her and Mark Wahlberg. But in terms of Marshall, as a director, I'd have to go with Big, because when I was a kid growing up, my whole family's from New York, and I wanted to go to FAO Schwartz all the time. And I remember like Big was a big deal because obviously the piano sequence in FAO Schwartz with Tom Hanks, and it's just an iconic sequence, probably one of the most famous scenes in cinema history. But at the same time, that scene is great. It's not the best scene in the film, though. It's the most iconic scene in the film, you would argue. But that film just has so many great emotional and comedic aspects to it. But in terms of my personal preference, FAO Schwartz was a big deal for me as a kid. So I always just loved that scene and the idea of Hanks's character being a kid, essentially, you know, and that to me has always resonated because I'm 38 years old and I still find myself to be that kid who would hop on that piano and do the same thing. So I love that scene. It's an iconic moment, and FAO Schwartz will always be a special place for me. I don't think it's even there anymore. They renamed it or something, but that's my pick for Penny Marshall blend.
All right, as I was starting to say, we are planning to have a lot of fun next week when we play #Jared Leto blend. In honor of Morbius
finally coming out
to theaters.
Okay, does it have to be a movie?
It has to be Morbius. No, the answer is Morbius.
It has to be Morbius.
It has to be Morbius.
Yeah.
What do you mean? Are there movies that he doesn't acknowledge?
A reporter once tried to ask him about being in the movie Urban Legend, which I actually like that movie, and he was like, I wasn't in that. And the reporter thought it was like, what are you talking about? Like, you're in Urban Legend. He's like, no, I'm not. I've never heard of that movie before.
That's very strange.
Like, what do you?
Because I'd never heard that story, and I mentioned Urban Legend to him during Morbius.
And he acknowledged it?
Yeah, he did. Yeah. Well,
maybe he was trying to be funny. Maybe he was like, maybe he's like, it's an urban legend that I'm an urban legend. Maybe he's just a punny guy.
But that also goes back to, and I've never actually read the interview, but I always heard that Jennifer Aniston doesn't acknowledge that she was in Leprechaun.
Why not? Come on, own
Yeah,
these things.
well, I mean, exactly.
It's got so much love now.
And George Clooney makes fun of like him and like himself in Return of the Killer Tomatoes. And also, Urban Legend has one of the greatest opening scenes of any horror movie ever.
Urban Legend's awesome.
Or that opening scene where
is that the gas station one?
Yeah, the gas station, and he's stuttering and he's trying to get his words out.
I will get creeped out to this day if that thought enters my brain while I'm in my car alone at night.
You know who that is? The gas station attendant?
No, I don't remember.
Voice of Chucky.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Nice.
You guys have totally lost me.
Okay, so there's
never seen.
Can I tell you what it is?
Urban Legend is
if anything's YouTube, the opening scene, the opening because it came out like in that, like, remember after Scream, like there were so many different like
last summer,
slasher movies and like who's the killer, and this was another one that came out, and it ends up being like a fairly generic like slasher movie, but the opening scene is fantastic, like not quite Scream level kill, but like, oh my God, it's so good. And yeah, it does it when I hear that song that's playing, and when I am like, if I'm driving alone, which I haven't done in a long time, but if I'm driving alone I do think of that scene, I always go,
you're in an Uber freaking out.
Yeah. and you are the person in the back seat.
Yeah.
All right. Well, hopefully someone picks Urban Legend next week for.
Now I have to. If he doesn't acknowledge it, I pick it.
Yeah, right. So we can keep talking about it. All right. Drop us a review on Apple Podcasts, and please leave us a rating on Spotify. Our next premium episode is going to be a double feature episode of the March mailbag. And again, you can get access to premium, all the ReelBlend premium episodes by going to cinemablend.com/ReelBlend Premium. It's good to be back, guys. You can follow us on social media at Jake's Takes, at Kevin McCarthy TV, at Daenerys.com, at Sean_O'Connell, at Gabe Kovac. And the show is at ReelBlend. We'll talk to you guys next week. Oppenheimer.
Hockey pads.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
Power of the dog. Power of Daenerys.